We are what? We are who? We are what? Vibrant. We are who? 50 plus. Hi, welcome to Gray Lives on the Rise. I am your host, Professor Jamila Franklin, and we are coming to you from Oyende Enterprises, being sponsored by Jamila Sense, which is our product line of aromatherapy products that helps heal the mind, body, and soul. And we are bringing to you Alamaj's rebirthing program, as well as Jamila Sense, and a host of wonderful programs that will help heal your body, heal your soul, and heal your mind. 50 plus people, we are here to stay. Gray Lives on the Rise. We are what? We are who? We are vibrant, and we are here to stay. Join us for our wonderful episodes. Thank you, and continue to look for our episodes weekly, being brought to you again from Oyende Enterprises and Jamila Sense. See you soon. Greetings, everyone. Welcome again to Gray Lives on the Rise. I'm your host, Professor Jamila Franklin, and I am here with the beautiful Stephana Johnson. And before we get into the episode today, I'll give you a little bit of information about Gray Lives. Before we do that, look at our shirt. See, Gray Lives on the Rise. You see I have on the white, and Stephana has on the melon. So this came about a year and a half ago when I was walking, because I love exercising. I was walking, and this thing just came into my consciousness like a download, and the information basically was, look, there's nothing out there that addresses people in your age group, the 50 plus age group demographic. And I said, yeah, except Medicare and AARP. And my friends are not into a lot of pharmaceuticals, so they're not into Medicare like that, and AARP, most of my friends are not being sedentary. So I said, yeah, okay, that's true. What can I come up with? And the download laid out everything. So you need to have a brand. And you need to come up with a name. And it's okay, Gray Lives Matter. I said, no, that's overused. They said, Gray Lives on the Rise. I said, I like that. Lives and rise rhyme, and it means we're on the ascent. We're not going down. So I said, okay, yeah. And then the thing was, okay, you need to have a brand. I said, okay. Then we came up with the idea of having an online store, because people relate to brands. And so we had Gray Lives on the Rise store with the beautiful t-shirts and mugs, cosmetic bags. You need to go and visit the store. It is amazing. And you can find us on oyendeenterprises.com, OYINDE Enterprises, ENTERPRISES.com. You see all of our merchandise. And then I said, okay, we need to start relanguaging things, because people who are 50 plus and even others start calling people old or seniors or elderly. We're none of that. We are seasoned, we are mature, we're vibrant, we're golden, and full of energy. So it's okay, have all that in place now. Now the podcast. The podcast now is directed to people who are 50 plus, because a lot of times when people hear our ages, they discriminate. If you're 50 and above, usually they don't hire you, or they're disrespectful, or they use terms to denigrate you because they think that you are senile, and we are far from senile, far from it. So I said, okay, this podcast is to uplift, motivate, and inspire people who are 50 plus, who have businesses, who have excellent ideas, and is global. It's not just for people in the States. I've had people on from Serbia, from Australia, from Canada. We have people on from England, Belize, around the world. The goal is to have each continent represented, and eventually each country. It can be done, So we started with that, and so now it's just growing. It's growing by leaps and bounds. So a little bit about me. I'm Professor Jamila Franklin. I'm a certified aromatherapist, a certified Reiki master, a certified metaphysician, a college professor of psychology, and an acclaimed published author. So I've done a lot, and I have my program, Great Lives on the Rise, which I founded, is underwritten by my company, Oyende Enterprises and Peace Be Still. Peace Be Still is Jamila Sense. Peace Be Still is one of the products within Jamila Sense. Like I said, I'm a certified aromatherapist, and all of my products are all natural. They help the body heal, the soul, spirit, and mind. And all you do is you just take it, put 3 drops in your hands, smell it, you feel like you're in heaven. I've sold out, so that's the reason why I don't have a bottle in front of me. But if you go to Oyende Enterprises, you will see all of my companies, and you will see Peace Be Still, which is excellent for stress, anxiety, depression, hyperactivity within children, sinus congestion, sinus headaches, migraine headaches, anything like that that's a stressor. Peace Be Still will knock it out of the ballpark. So, having done that, the infomercial, we're going to get into talking about our lovely guests today. Now, Stephana Johnson is the CEO of Powerhouse Leaders, the creator of Yogilachi, is that correct? Yogilachi, and a sought-after fractional CEO, motivational speaker, and leadership energy expert. She's a person after my own heart. I love all of this. I love it. Okay. As a certified holistic health practitioner, corrective exercise specialist, and neuromuscular therapist, Stephana has helped high-level entrepreneurs, A-list celebrities, senior executives, and their families reclaim their energy, align their health, and elevate their performance. With over 30 years of experience, she has worked with more than 10,000 leaders one-on-one, guiding them to achieve greater resilience, clarity, and balance through her holistic and personalized approach, combining mindset mastery, functional movement, and lifestyle optimization. Stephana empowers leaders to thrive in every area of their lives while building a legacy of true health, success, and impactful leadership. Welcome, Stephana.
Thank you.
Wow.
How fun.
Oh, wow. You see this powerhouse? I mean, that term accurately describes who she is. That's amazing. Over 10,000 leaders one-on-one. Lovely lady. How do you have the time?
Well,
One-on-one.
this is what I do, right? I've been doing this a very long time, and it's what I do, and uh, it adds up. I know.
Yeah,
Looking back
that's
at, wow, I've done a lot.
yeah, you
That's
have.
that's
I,
life. As you
yeah,
have, right? You have a lot of experience under your belt. As
yeah,
anyone who is leading their life and hits the 50s and getting into the 60s, and we are we have experience, we have
yeah.
knowledge, and if we're doing it and uh, we're not burying our gifts, there's a
Right.
lot of contribution that can happen. And I am very, I will say lucky, but I'm also very, very blessed to be in a have experienced rough early on
Yeah.
trauma and hit my hit a lot of pitfalls. And as a
Yeah.
result, I learned and developed a lot of skills that I would not have had the opportunity to even have investigated had I just stayed that simple path, right? I
Yeah.
originally was training to be a therapist, psychologist, and a lot of things I disagreed with, and this was in the 80s. And
Mm-hmm.
so I did look at other directions. But then it was almost forced on me to look at other directions because of health issues or because of certain
Mm,
experiences. And that's the gift, that as you evolve, if you're willing to look,
yeah,
and yes, it costs a few gray hairs, but this is the process of life, isn't it?
yeah. And what's really wonderful is you know how to pivot expertly. Some people get into a groove and they get stuck, no matter what the universe is showing them. I think you should pivot. I think you should look at something else. No, this is what I'm here to do. I'm not going to change my route. I'm just going to stay in this route. And there are so many other opportunities that may be awaiting them, but they choose to stay stuck when everything around them is saying, why don't you look at this? You don't have to completely forget about your original uh, dream, but look at some other options as well.
Yeah,
That's wonderful.
I think that that has a lot to do with how we've been raised.
Yeah,
If we have had mentors or parents or adults in our lives that were very fixed and rigid, then that
yeah,
can definitely be there. And then there's many who have taken that and completely gone the opposite direction. I think that's
yeah,
why it's so important, especially with the work that you're doing. And I love your intention with regards to gray lives on the rise. But I
yeah.
think it's more so your movement is more about expressing and sharing the vibrancy that those who are leading their lives in a whole way, in a
Hmm.
way that is in harmony with natural law, let's say, or in a higher purpose, and isn't
Yeah,
just the same very boxed position that a lot of culture tries to fit everything into these little
hmm,
categories or this line. And that's just, we know that that comes from wisdom if you're willing to
hmm.
look. And look, I've known 80-year-olds who didn't have wisdom, and I've known 8-year-olds who had a lot more wisdom than an 80-year-old. So it comes
Very
from,
true.
as you say, just realizing that it is a process of evolution, whether that's a pivot. But here's the thing, every moment is an opportunity for us to investigate a little bit more deeply our lives. And so many don't want to.
Yeah,
So many would rather keep their head in the sand and just be in front of the television that's telling them a false vision. And as long
yes.
as they keep having that false vision told to them, they will not hear the voice like you did. You're walking down the street and
Hmm,
you
hmm.
hear this voice. You say it's a download. Well, guess what? Everyone has that link up. They just can't hear it because there's so much noise and chatter going on in their mind. They have to get
Hmm.
quiet. And so taking that walk is brilliant. I think that that's something that everyone should do. It's the number one thing. Actually, there's three things that I ask my clients to do immediately. One of them is definitely going out and taking a walk without any devices, because
Yes,
so
yeah,
many are not moving their body and getting their body and their brain and their heart in alignment to be able to hear those downloads, right?
right,
And that's so important. And that is part of the process and the path to true wisdom.
right. That's true. That is so true. And because what you said, Stefana, is so powerful, everyone has access to that intuitive voice. You're born with it. But like you said, but because of all the chatter, internal chatter that is going on in people's minds, uh, the children, the grandchildren, most people have the children out of the house, but maybe the grandchildren or their retirement fund or whatever's going on, their physical concerns. There's so much chatter that they are not being still to hear the
Mhm.
voice that's giving them the plan. And so by walking, for me, I'm so attuned to or in tune with nature. And I love to walk where trees are because I can hear the intuitive messages better
Yes.
because I don't have the traffic, I don't have the cars and those things around. But that is so wonderful. Well, what led you to these diverse opportunities? Because you're doing so many wonderful things in terms of your career and early on in life. How did you end up in this wonderful space of knowing?
While it may seem diverse, I think that if we as individuals realize how dynamic we are. And when there's an interest, that it's okay to look at it. Doesn't mean we have to be professional in everything. And I think that that's one of the things that holds people back, especially in today's age. And we need to shift that. That early on, I was so interested in theater and acting and dancing and creating.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one way. And so I had all of my attention. Okay, well, that's what I need to be. And that was early in my life before I even said, okay, well, now I need to do a career. So, well, I'm good with numbers. So maybe I should become a CPA. So then I'm studying this and then I'm studying. And there were times where I remember for a decade, I kept my love for yoga, which I'd been practicing since I was 10, and my love for martial arts, especially Tai Chi, I was practicing since I was 14 because I had a mentor. And then the Pilates, which I didn't discover until I was in my 20s, and that was in New York City, and they were all segregated, they were all separate.
Yeah.
This, and don't mix them because
Yeah.
this doesn't mix with this. Well, it's why I created Yogilachi, because I was hurting myself in yoga. My back would always hurt, and I couldn't figure out why.
Mm.
And the thing is, I had a lumbar issue. My my pelvis was tilting to the point where it was constantly compressing my spine. Every yoga pose I was doing, forward bends, was perpetuating that problem. It
Mm.
wasn't until I did Pilates and learned and certified and went through training there, because I was an actor in New York in the 80s, and I could not waitress to save my life. So I did personal training and fitness health with, I was taken under by another mentor who was amazing. And she
Mm.
was a personal trainer to the stars. So she took me under her wing, she trained me, and then I went and was the personal trainer under her for stars and celebrities. And they were people. They were people who wanted health and wellness and fitness. And so I'd go to their homes and do the training. And so you discover who people really are outside of this, who they are on the stage or on the screen, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
But going back to the evolution, you can see how this naturally happens. So I would, when I was getting certified in Pilates and learning about controlology, I discovered my core. I discovered my
Mhm.
strong abdominal muscles that were more than just the center. And as a
Mhm.
result, that changed everything for my chronic back pain. And so, because I was able to do that for myself, of course I wanted to share it with everyone. And so I created Yogilachi, and this is back in the 90s. And I would
Mhm.
share with my TV shows because I loved my also performing type, right? I love to talk and I love to put on makeup. Really, what it is I love to get dressed up and put on makeup for a character, even if it was a
Uh-huh.
scary alien character, or it was a gorgeous goddess character, or it was, a down and out alcoholic. I've loved playing every single one of those characters because that's creating and fun to me, right?
Yeah.
But the back to, okay, well, I was doing acting, but I wasn't making a regular living, right? It was feast or famine. So rather than waitressing, I could not save my life to do that. But I would do the training, and then it evolved because I always wanted to help people. And then
Mhm.
as I continued my own training in psychology and spiritual work and learning Reiki like you and all these different
Mhm.
tools, especially in the 80s and the 90s, it was evolving time. There was
Right.
so much there. Oh my gosh, there was so much available. And coaching was I don't think that happened started until the 2000s, right?
Right.
And
Mhm.
as you're just living life, and if you're following a semblance of your path in any way, those pieces are going to fall in line. They're just going to be there for you. And as
Mhm.
much as I've learned, because I so wanted to help people, and I really, it's such a struggle for me to see someone in pain or suffering. I don't like that. And I have learned now that I don't have to fix everyone. For
Right.
many years in the early 2000s, I was a volunteer minister, and I would go anywhere that someone needed me, and it would leave me completely drained financially, right? Because I'm volunteering and giving everything I can give. And so I had to find that balance. And part of that was, okay, what is it that, how can I create something and have some exchange that is, I need compensation for my skills, but I also want to give. And it's very important to me. So there's also those paths where I still give a lot, even whether it's a video or whether it's sharing some information, right? Or writing, if we put something out there. Now there's videos all the time. People can avail themselves of all kinds of videos.
Right.
But it's this process, and you can see how it evolves. Right now, I am taking a doctorate program specifically for Unani Tib, which is as the physician, as opposed to medicine. I've seen over the last couple of decades I've experienced it myself, and I've seen the negative impact of mainstream medical concepts that are pushed on people as solutions. And there is a big gap of what's the root cause versus the solution that's being offered and being promoted, because there's so much money to promote this solution. But there are other solutions. And I think that that's important for us to understand, that there are more solutions. And we need to ask ourselves, whatever solution is presented, who's presenting that? Is it truly support, or is this, and this is something I'm very passionate about. We have to educate ourselves, and we have to be okay to question and not get offended. Oh, I'm so offended. You offended me. No, get over it. We have to step into our own essence, and I think the gray hairs have taught me that. We have come from the last 5 years, I know for myself personally, living in a fear-based concept and construct that has really diminished our well-being as gray lives who are on the rise and who need to step outside of the box, because it's like been created in this way that we have forgotten how to question. We have forgotten how to look and think critically and make a concerted, really like, let's have a good, come on, let's actually have a conversation, shall we? Right? So that's the process of my life. And it's one of the reasons I don't often talk about the fractional CEO. I must have added that as a result. So the chief empowerment officer of an organization is the visionary. They are the innovator. They are the one that's spearheading and creating something. But what I've seen over the last 7 years is a lot of the creator, the innovator, maybe is the innovator of something like an invention or something new, and it's wonderful, but then they're missing some of the skills to create the actual components to build it into something that can take it to the next level and get it out to the world. So that's where I had stepped in, and it really was because I was already working with a client who would talk to me, because I would see her twice, 3 times a week, and she was a business owner, and we were talking about things. I was like, oh, she's missing a huge piece. So then she brought me on to the business part of it to actually go in there and support creating the vision, the values, the mission, and getting everybody on the same page, because the culture was chaotic. And so that piece of the CEO being able to do that was just a natural progression. And I think that anyone, wherever you are, if you can start looking at the natural progression of your own life, instead of being afraid of that discomfort, step back and look at it and allow for it to change you, change the way you think, change the way you feel. It doesn't mean you have to stay stuck, right? Had I stayed in my mindset 5 years ago where I closed my brick and mortar studio and it took, I will admit, it took me a bit to get out of it because I was very focused on a certain path.
Yeah.
And there were external circumstances that took us out of those paths. And I'm not alone in this. I think millions and
Mm-hmm.
millions of businesses collapsed and closed.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of the lives that were lost, but we realize now, we, as part of nature, we are growing. We, I don't like this, we're either growing or we're dying, but that's kind of true, right? We're either growing or we're dying in some form. Now, with that said, there are things that need to die. Just like if we look at our beautiful, I look at my beautiful azalea bush and I don't want to trim any of that off, or my fuchsias, which I love so much. But guess what? When I cut some of those limbs and cut some of those off, the other blossoms can thrive,
Yeah.
right? And so that's important too. And some do need to be deadheaded. So I think that that's, if we can understand that, I will tell you, I have, as many things that I am doing now, I have let go of, right? And I think that that's a beautiful gift. Now, this is, I'm speaking for myself, and I'm a little bit more dynamic. Although I'm very introverted, I'm very dynamic in that I push myself out there because I know I have something that's valuable and I want to share.
Mm-hmm.
But when you just follow this stuck position, or this, now I'm supposed to do this because mommy said so, or because
Right.
doctor said so, or because some authority government said so, or blah 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 said so. Really? Okay. Well, tell yourself the truth of that. You're doing it because you think, or you believe that that is the safe way to do it, or you're afraid to actually know what you truly want, what you truly feel. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a hard thing for most people to look at. I myself have to do that. In fact, I discovered that one of the ways that I escape actually looking at my own inner workings of what's going on is that I'll start a new project.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start a new thing. Oh, look, isn't
Mm-hmm.
that pretty? Let's go try that. Let's go. Oh, I've got enough books to say. Oh, let's go read another book. Maybe I'll find the answer there, even though I don't know what the question is. And
Yeah.
so going full circle right back to, this is where that daily walk is vital. Getting
Mm-hmm.
quiet, tapping back
Mm-hmm.
into your truth. And sometimes it's just quiet. But
Mm-hmm.
when, I mean, there's nothing, it's because that is when you can allow for that breath.
Mm-hmm. I think that
And
that's,
and and that's a practice. It sometimes for me has to be a moment to moment practice, but for sure it's a
yeah.
daily practice.
Yeah. I think that this, everything you said is really, really important and really spot on. I think that people sometimes get distracted for a couple of reasons. One is because they procrastinate and they don't want to pursue what's in front of them because they think it's so daunting. So they get sidetracked. And then another reason is because uh, they may not have been fully committed to the idea that they know some of the uh, the idea and some of the intention, but they're not fully committed to it. So to come full circle, I think by walking in nature, I know for me, by walking in nature, you are forced to get quiet. I mean, some people are talking to themselves, but most people are not. So, like what you said, leaving the cell phones at home, and even if you have a walking partner, walking in silence. But a lot of times people are afraid to do that because they don't want to hear what the intuitive voice may be suggesting to them to do. And like I said, you've been able to pivot. A lot of times they don't want to. They know that they may not be going in a direction that continues to serve them, but they're used to it. they've gotten comfortable with it, even though it brings some discomfort. That's all they know. So they stay stuck. And when you're walking in solitude, in nature, other things come. Like when I was walking, things just come, especially if you have a blank canvas and you're not coming up with things to distract you. So you have done, for me, you've done a really great job with all of these different avenues and pursuits. You know, you had the back injury and from yoga, and then you decided something intuitively led you to Pilates, then led you to all these other different ventures, which all led to the culmination of who you are now. So I think that's really important. But sometimes, like I said, people uh, get distracted and somewhat intentionally because they're procrastinating, because they, they choose not to pivot because of fear. You know what you're doing, even if it's something that you don't like, but to pivot, to go to something, to the unknown, that's scary for some people, particularly if they're 50 plus. It's like, okay, I know I've been working this job for 30 years. I'm no longer working in the job. And I'm glad that I'm not, but I don't know what to do. And they may go back into even volunteering at the job or doing something very similar to what they left that no one gives them pleasure because they don't know how to pivot. So I think what you've just shared, I think it's really important, particularly, like I said, at the stage, because a lot of people don't know how to pivot. They desire. So having someone like you come in to coach them and give them one-on-one mentorship, coaching, counseling, whatever you would like to call it, I think it's
Yeah,
really, really important.
I do wish that our culture supported more of natural mentoring as a process, that the mothers and fathers and the grandparents and everyone that was part of bringing up and raising our sons and daughters, that there was more of this naturally built in, because I think it's very important. And you said procrastination a few times. Procrastination really is a disconnection from your head, your heart, and your body. If you are not fully in alignment, right, then anything can pull you away, and those energies or those pieces do tend to fragment you. And I think that one of the biggest pieces, so you said fear. What is fear? So I love, it's Wayne Dyer who said false evidence appearing real.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe he was the first one to say it. And I love that. And then the other is ego, edging God out,
Mm-hmm.
that he would talk about. And those two go hand in hand, because if, like the ego, that part of us that does want to be comfortable, is, com, complacent. It's not complacent. It's actually this. So neurologically speaking, the brain is amazing at conserving energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so to even have to learn a new skill, it's uncomfortable. And
Right.
let's face it, in the last 20 years, we've had to learn new skills, the computer and the internet and all this, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But if you understand that it's a process, just like when fear comes your way, that is information, like on our vehicle, that there's an indicator light that's coming on to say, check this out. It doesn't mean you should be terrified that your oil light came on.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't, we don't know what it means yet. Or your check engine light. The check engine light's a better analogy. Okay? Because if the oil light comes on, we're like, okay, I know what that is. I need to fix the oil. I need to get in, and however you're going to do that, you're going to take the steps to do that. But now check engine light comes on. Oh dear. That could be anything. And then the mind's going to go off on this da 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 da. But if you yourself are not clear on who you are, you're not your mind. You're not your thoughts. You are not your feelings. Even if you consider yourself in a state of a certain health condition or a certain condition and you call yourself, I'm in a state of panic, or
Mm-hmm.
really watch your words. That is not true. You are not. You are this whole, strong, vibrant, harmonious being that is tapped in to something infinite in this universe. And as you fully get in alignment with that, it is impossible to procrastinate, because you will naturally exude this essence that is alive within you, and only you, that's only coming through your unique, one in a multi-billion, maybe even trillion, that you are. And only you can express your divine essence that's flowing through you. So anytime I hear procrastination, or well, it's too scary, or that you don't commit to the idea, one, it's most likely not your idea. It's because we're getting so many false information. Oh, my gosh, every moment there's false ideas coming through. Stop it. Turn it off. And stop watching the boob tube and the this
Yep.
and the this. And so many spend hours on that. Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Stop. Stop it. It is sick.
No, I agree. I think the
Drink
thing
water,
is,
walk, get
yeah,
quiet, take the time to do what you need to do,
yeah.
to do the hard work, because only you can. I am an amazing guide. Yes, I love to guide, but you know what? I can't do it for you. No one can do it for you. No one can do the work for you. We can do it with you. We can guide and support.
Mm-hmm.
And for sure, there's so much. I know you are supporting so many and want to. I want to do that. But ultimately, it comes down to each of us taking that initiative to
Right.
own our thoughts, own our life, not be owned by them, not be owned by those, not be a user of someone else's addiction that they're trying to put on us. That's all lie. And that's where the discomfort comes from. And sadly, that's also where the disconnection from our truth that leads to this illness that then shows up in the body, because it is all connected. And that's
Mm-hmm.
ultimately what I have to speak and preach about, because you can say, oh, well, you're going to go to work and this is your job, and then, oh, you've got all these health issues, and all of it is connected, my friends, all of it. You cannot segregate your health or your relationships or your work and say they're separate. They are all connected. They are all integrated. And guess what? That's the microcosm of the macrocosm, because we are all connected. You and I are connected. And in
Mm-hmm.
this moment, I can send a peace and love and joy, all of that. And at the same time, also know that that darkness that is in our world is what we choose not to confront. And let me be clear, we are choosing to not confront it by turning our back and saying, oh, I'm not going to confront that evil. I want everything to be all sweet and wonderful. I lived that life. For a
Mm-hmm.
full 20 years, I lived that life of, can't we all just get along? Everyone, oh, they should have their own opinion. They should have, let them have. No. What is true is objective, and we know what is right. And that's the other painful confusion that happens if we are not fully understanding what truth is. We're confused. We're shown these images that are complete lies, complete fabrication, complete, like, that just doesn't make sense. And then we don't process, we don't take the initiative and go, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. I am not thinking, I don't know about that. And then we bury it, we bury it, we bury it, and then we go on about our lives. And that's another piece of the puzzle on what builds procrastination and builds fear, because you're disconnecting yourself more and more and more from your truth, from the truth with a capital T. And then we live in this whole fabricated construct that is absolutely upside down, turned inside out, and wrong, just plain wrong, right? So when there's someone like you that comes along and wants to share this gray lives on the rise, okay, you know there's something different.
Mm-hmm.
that you need to put forth. And you
Mm,
want to attract and connect with those that also want to expand this consciousness to understand that there is more to each of us. There is more to our life
mm,
beyond our 60s, 50s,
mhm.
60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. But that age, that number really doesn't mean it doesn't mean anything unless we decide it means something. So if we
Mhm.
want it to mean that it's, oh, you're old in age, guess what? Someone's made that decision and gone into agreement and bought it, and someone else is beating the horn like, yahoo, this is the truth. Or you can go the other way. No, this is the best time of my life. I thought my 30s I was amazing. I feel better, I'm stronger, I'm healthier than I was in my 20s, my 30s, and my 40s.
Mhm.
And that's saying something. And it's not because I did some wonky thing. It was because I did the simple right actions and didn't go into this complication. Like you say, with essential oils, all natural. These are the simple common sense things, folks. Eat whole foods,
Mhm.
drink pure water, get out in the sunshine, live a true purpose,
Mhm.
contribute to something greater than yourself that
Right.
actually does good, not harm,
Mhm.
and move forward in that life.
Mhm.
That's incredible. And then
Yeah.
continue to expand into that. You have no idea what potential you have.
Yeah.
It's there to be discovered, and to be afraid of that. You know, fear and courage, folks often say, well, if you're afraid, what's the opposite of being afraid? It's either fear or love.
Mhm.
Walk towards what you love every day, every moment.
Mhm.
Move towards what you love. I'm
Yeah.
not saying don't look at what you don't like, because you need to sometimes look at what's negative in order to see what's positive and right there. Does this make sense?
Yeah. Well, you talked about juxtaposition. I think that this you can always have polar opposites. The yin and the yang. You can't avoid that. On the third dimension, that's inevitable. And I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I agree with it. I think a lot of times people get into these situations because of habituation. They've become so used to, like I was saying before, used to doing things in a certain kind of way. And what you're providing for them is a way to look at things differently. And a lot of times people are, like I said, they're afraid to do that. And I use the same acronym, fear as false evidence appearing real. So by having you here to show people there's another option, because until the past 30, 40 years, before Wayne Dyer, before people like, for me, Nikki Giovanni and some other people, James Baldwin and some other folks, people didn't know about the options because it wasn't, those options were not promoted. You are conditioned to do things, like I said, through habituation, because the greater society profits from that. If you are an individual thinker on in a corporate job, that's not going to work. And when people go to corporate jobs like a car industry and come up with a car design, they sign on the line that it belongs to the corporation. So the more creative you are, people are like, well, okay, I'm not benefiting from being an individual thinker. Even in schools with children who are individual thinkers, they're punished. So what we
Mhm.
now are doing, particularly what this movement is doing, is giving people permission to break away from the habituation. First, because some people are no longer employed. They're creating their own destinies, their own lives, because they're no longer working for someone. So there's
Which I
some
think is
fear.
wonderful. I think
Yeah,
that
and
is,
there's some fear because of that. So, but I think there it's layered, and what you've so expertly laid out for people is, look, take your power back. Basically, take your power back. It's always been there. It wasn't promoted, it wasn't sanctioned, because it wasn't in the best interest of the people, the powers to be.
Yeah,
Now
we
that you're
bought
no,
into that false idea, right?
yeah,
Yes.
now that you are free from that because you're retired, most people are retired, you now can breathe and say, oh, I didn't know that this was available. Even within families, you're not permitted as children to think so far outside of the box of the family construct. You're taught to behave and act a certain kind of way.
Mhm.
So what you're saying now is the age of Aquarius. We're now looking at things differently. People now are coming out with ideas that free them. And I think your model, excuse me, everything that you're saying makes a lot of sense. And not only does it make sense, you're giving people some steps, because you can tell people, don't think this way, don't think. They're like, well, I don't know how to undo this. What are the steps in place? So by contacting you, you can guide them. And you're right, we can't do it for them. I tell my clients, I can't do it for you. You have to do it for yourself, but I will show you the steps that will help you see a different kind of paradigm, because you're stuck in this old construct that no longer works for you. So what you're doing, I think, is absolutely amazing and wonderful, because you're giving them the steps. And that's one of the things that I really loved about Wayne Dyer, that he gave people steps. He, and for me, James Baldwin, Nikki Giovanni, Maya Angelou, all of them, they gave people alternatives. Like, you don't have to be a slave to this system, because the system is benefiting from your fear, and you're afraid because you don't know what lies on the other side. You don't have an idea, and they're not going to tell you that it's better than what you're experiencing. So what you're showing them is I think is really, really awesome. It's awesome. You're not only talking about it, you're providing the mentorship, you're providing the guidance. Because sometimes people can tell people to do something, they're like, well, something different, but they don't know how. They're like,
Right.
it's
And,
all
and
I've
and they
known.
don't know how, because two things, the skills that they haven't developed. This is one thing that you always want to know for yourself, is that a skill can be learned. If you can just
Right.
keep that as a very stable, important understanding.
Mhm,
Anything that is a skill can be learned.
mhm,
And so that takes a lot of pressure off if you're willing to learn.
mhm,
If you're just not, and you're stuck in an emotional level that feels burdensome, that
mhm,
can be really difficult. And you, as a psychologist,
mhm.
uh, knowing that our minds, our thoughts can keep us trapped in that. But
Yeah.
if you then can shift from understanding that you're not your thoughts, and that's one of the things. So I have a methodology called Pilot Your Way.
Mhm,
And this is when I was learning to be a pilot. This is another story altogether.
mhm,
Early, I was going to join the Air Force and become a pilot because I wanted to fly very fast.
mhm,
Well, my mentor helped me understand something pivotal that I didn't know up until that point, and it changed my life. And that's where I created the Pilot Your Way method. Pilot as an acronym as well as an analogy. So you are flying, you are in flight, you are
mhm,
on your way somewhere. Would you agree? You are on
mhm,
some path.
mhm,
It may be to a destination that's unknown. It may be to a destination you don't want to get to, or it may be to a destination you can't wait to get to. But
mhm,
now you have to know, do you have the right provisions for that? Do you have, so there's pieces to this. When you're going in any direction, ideally, you know where that direction is, but so many don't. They are on default.
mhm.
So that's where I say practice presence. That's your first P. Whoa, hello? Is this where I'm at? Oh my gosh, hi. Or, whoa, if I, knowing what I know now, I don't think I would have choose where I'm at right now. Oh my gosh. Okay. So that
Mhm.
moment of getting present without beating yourself up, without regret or shame or guilt or blame, just be. Oh, here I am. And that's help. The walk, those are tools that help, right? The second is intention, the I.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know clearly what is your intention. And sometimes it's a bite-sized intention, and sometimes it's your entire life intention. I love the eulogy exercise that Stephen Covey teaches in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That's a must read. That's a top 100 book everyone should be reading. When you understand the destination, or even this moment of this destination, I set an intention before I got on the call with you today, right?
Mm-hmm.
So know that intention. Now you're present and you're clear on your intention. What's the L? Well, my flight instructor let me know that it was, you have got to let go of those old, sometimes the emotions that cause the fear, sometimes all of that. It's just letting go so you can level up.
Mm-hmm.
And that piece, I'm practicing that often. The O is observation. And observation gets confused with judgment. Because if you're observing something, you're noticing what's going on without putting a judgment. It means this, it means that. You're exterior to it and able to see so that you can then make the next right action. Take the next right action. And that is vital for a pilot, or himself, the airplane, all the passengers will not make it to their destination, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the T is tools. And oftentimes, the tools we have are tools that we need to jettison. Oftentimes,
Mm-hmm.
we have tools that look like someone else's tool, and they actually are something. Let's say, for example, I used to use my beautiful high heels to hammer a nail into the wall if I wanted to put a picture up. It's the wrong tool, and I damaged my heels. But I didn't go get my hammer and use the right tool. These are the simple things that if we can just take a moment and get present, we can see for ourselves. You probably could create your own methodology, and I'd prefer that. I would much prefer that now, that as I'm working with my clients, I'm really focused on helping them create their own toolbox that is unique to them, that is unique to their current skills, needs, destination, and then improving those skills. As Covey said, sharpen the saw. I think it was who said it before, because Covey said a lot of things that were previous people's, but I like to attribute who said where I learned it. But sharpening that saw is important. Was it Lincoln who said, if I were to cut down a tree, I'd take 6 hours, I had 7 hours to cut down a tree, I'd take 6 hours to sharpen the saw? Or, right? So that analogy is important. And sometimes we just don't understand the expectations, like, you got to know this right now. You got to be an expert at this right now. It's like, no, take the time. And the percentage of time is a bigger percentage of time to actually do the action. And that's where I just wanted to get it done. Let's get it done. Let's give yourself the grace to build the skill, to learn it, to practice it, to sharpen the saw, and then go do the work. And repeat that on a regular basis. And that's how you build. That's how you create something of a legacy. And that is, I mean, everything I just shared is essentially a little piece of what I bring when it's a business or a person's life. And you can use these for yourself to successfully navigate your life to your destination that you want.
Mm-hmm. I think that what you shared today, Stephana, has been really important. We're coming to the close of the podcast. I think that you've given some very, very, very good steps for people to not only think about, but to implement and to make a commitment to shift. Because you can tell them all these things, but until they make the commitment, then nothing will happen. But I think you've given them some very good concrete steps. And what I would like to do is have people know how to get in touch with you. What's your contact information?
StephanaJohnson.com, StephanaJohnson, StephanaJohnson.com. That's my main website, and I have a contact page, my number's there, all my videos, everything I share. You can always find me through StephanaJohnson.com. And yeah, thank you.
Well, we so appreciate everything that you have shared with us. So in about the last 3 minutes, what would you like to leave with the listening audience? Great lives on the rise, people.
Yeah, so I think that there's a lot of identification and misidentification with who we're supposed to be, who we're expected to be, who we shouldn't be, all of this. And I would just ask, is that useful? Is that useful to you?
Good question.
With anything in your life, is this emotion that's coming up, this conversation I'm going to have based on this emotion, and that takes being able to pause for a moment, even just a split moment, not even a second, to be able to observe, and to notice, to be able to ask that question, is this useful? And if it's not, give yourself permission to let it go.
Yeah.
When you do, you are freeing up, just like with that fuchsia bush or deadheading the hydrangea. We are allowing the next blossom to come. And this is what's important to understand as we age and as we gray, that there are next evolutions. So if we keep trying to make ourselves 20 years old again or 30 years old again, what's that saying to your life? It's heartbreaking when I see my dear friends want to go and cut their bodies and do things to themselves that's actually very poisonous. What is it, botulism, when they do Botox? Like, oh my gosh. And it's, to me, it's like, oh no, is that really useful? There's some inner work that needs to be done. Look, I'm not saying, if that's what you think is right, I know as a therapist myself, that's something that I'd look at, what's the inner work. And I'd read Maxwell Maltz's book, what's the book? Psychocybernetics, because he was a plastic surgeon. And all of the problems they wanted solved by doing the plastic surgery did not get solved, because it's the inner work, my friends. It's the inner work. And that's where the gold is. That's where the gold is.
Nothing more needs to be said after that profound not revelation, but proclamation and statement. It is so true. It is so true. So we're so pleased, Stephana, that you were able to be part of our community and to share your wisdom. I think everything that you said was really, really enlightening. It's going to take us to the next level. That's where we need to go.
It was so fun being with you. Thank you. Send you
Thank you,
blessings.
Beloved. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you. And everyone, great lives on the rise. Okay, here we go. And see Stephana's melon and my white, beautiful. So like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Facebook channel, and tell others about the movement. And until next time, enjoy life, like Stephana was telling us, and live your best life now, okay? Thank you so much and take care. Namaste, everyone. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Gray Lives on the Rise, being brought to you by Jamila Scents, which is the product line of Oyende Enterprises. Jamila Scents is a 100% natural aromatherapy line that heals the mind, body, and soul. This episode of Gray Lives on the Rise was intended to uplift you, to inspire you, and to motivate you. Please tell all of your friends, family members, and anyone you know who's 50 plus, who's living a vibrant life and interested in doing more and enjoying life even to its fullest. So thank you, and please subscribe, like, and comment on this video and all our videos. Thank you, and until next time, until our next podcast, namaste and be well.